is Harrison, and we are P1 Picks, a Formula One betting podcast that uses data and analytics to give you the inside line on Formula One bets. We are coming into week 3 of 3, and we are at Silverstone. Very exciting race this week. How are you, Harrison?
I mean, coming off the chaos at last weekend, the bromance has ended in Austria.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm happy that we go to a circuit where all of the fans are rooting for Lando. They have to be giving him that extra push. I think that's the thing that makes this weekend fun. Silverstone is such a unique track. I think all the European circuits get like pushed into this whole thing of like, oh, they're kind of the same. Silverstone is wild. I think Silverstone is one of the coolest, most unique tracks that Formula One gets to go to. Why? Because one, it's a very long lap. It's almost 2 minutes. Um, you're on the throttle for almost 70% of your lap at Silverstone. So the ERS deployment of the engine, being able to use that battery power correctly is so important because there isn't a ton of like super heavy braking zone, especially on the last half of the lap. So that means that it puts a stress on the engine and on the particularly the battery and the ERS system in a way that like we don't get to see throughout the rest of the season, which I think is really cool. Two, there's a ton of lateral load. It's all about high speed cornering, right? There are so many corners that are above 100 and 120 miles an hour. You don't see that through any other track. Remember back in 2021 when we had all those tire blowouts because of the lateral load, mainly that happened at Silverstone. So I think Silverstone is one of the coolest tracks. Happy that Formula One is going here. What does the circuit layout, what does previous kind of things that we've seen in high speed circuits lead us to believe? I think we can infer probably three main pieces. One, Ferrari are going to struggle. Ferrari and their upgrade have not worked as planned. Ever since they brought that upgrade in Spain, it doesn't seem like the car has made a step forward. It actually seems like the upgrade has been a downgrade. Why? The car is porpoising again in high speed corners. You know, as soon as it gets to those high speed turns, it's starting to shake again, and that means that they're not producing stable downforce. These guys are struggling. So the first thing I want to call out is we know Ferrari's going to be a step behind. We think Mercedes has definitely made a step forward. They're going to be super fast at Silverstone, but just looking at kind of the back half of Austria, especially that lap where we have a lot of high speed turns, kind of from turn four onwards, Mercedes still struggled to McLaren and Red Bull, right? They still lack a little bit of downforce. They might have moved ahead of Ferrari, right? The order might have changed post Bahrain. Really, the order might have changed kind of post Miami. Um, but it does really seem that McLaren and Red Bull are going to be our two favorites, largely because the track really suits high speed cornering and teams that do well there. With that, I'm going to dive into our bets of the week.
Yeah, go for it. All right, Harrison, what are our bets going into Silverstone this weekend? I know that you are a big fan of this McLaren and Piastri in particular. Tell me about that bet.
Piastri was 3 inches away from winning in Austria. Bold statement. Let me back it up. Had Piastri not put his car slightly 3 inches outside of the line on what was it, the high speed turn five, turn six in Austria, he would have never struggled to start P7 and have to fight his way through the grid. He easily could have
Yeah.
started P3, and when Max Lando run into each other, he could have been there to win a race. So, in all reality, I think Piastri is starting to make those little details in Formula One that are starting to help. I remember something that Helmut Marko said back when Max was just getting started in Formula One at Toro Rosso that's always stuck in my head. He said drivers need 3 good years in Formula One before you really judge them. This is like midway through Piastri's second season, and he's starting to do the little things right. I think his tire wear has made a step forward. I think his racecraft has made a step forward. It's true. He struggled a little bit in Miami, made contact, but he was the number one McLaren in Monaco. And I think he really is starting to have more and more confidence. He was the number one McLaren out again. Sure, Lando had contact, but I really do think that you know, Max should hopefully win this race. But if you're looking at Piastri against George Russell against the Mercedes, I like Piastri here because I think the car is slightly better. Um, I think they're really even racers, right? I think Russell is special. I think Piastri is special. Both of these guys won Formula 3 and Formula 2 in back-to-back years as rookies, so they have really strong racing pedigree. But I've got to say that, even though George Russell does have the British press on his side, I think Piastri has the car. In this circumstance, you've always got to bet on car over driver. So I like Piastri to be on the podium in Silverstone.
So we've got Oscar Piastri plus 115. That's for a podium finish. You bet 40, you could win 46. What's next, Harrison?
I like Max to win outright. You're going to ask me why I like Max to win outright. This is a high-speed racetrack. If we look at how devastating the Red Bull was in Sector 3 in Austria, he gained 4 tenths on the rest of the field. Dear Lord. Um, Red Bull are still out in front in the high-speed corners. True, they struggled a little bit last race. You know, they had a bad pit stop that allowed Lando to get close. That's not going to happen again. Even if Max doesn't have the fastest car, Max has something to prove this weekend, and we haven't seen angry Max since Imola when he won. So I think Max is still the strongest driver this weekend. Red Bull are still going to have a pace advantage. Even if McLaren happen to put it on pole, um, Max is still the strongest driver in the strongest in the best car. Lando's good. His racecraft is there, but he can't get past Max. Outright can't get past Max.
Yeah, so you've got Max Verstappen minus 180 odds, and that's to win the race. You bet 40, you could win $22.22. And then our final P10 bet of the week. I like this one a lot. We've got Nico Hulkenberg plus 100. That's a top 10 finish. You bet 40, you could win 40. Why Nico here?
Yeah, I think this is really just kind of looking at how dependable the Haas has been, right? If you look at kind of the last 3 or 4 races, Nico has really been kind of consistently the lead Haas. On top of that, last race, he was consistently fighting with Perez. So it seems like they've taken a step forward on understanding kind of tire management. I was really surprised in Austria, for example, that Haas was able to make the short stint on that soft tire work and then go long on the mediums. That was, I think, a beautiful strategy. Excuse me. They they started off on the medium tire, went short on the first stint, and then went long on the next 2 stints. And I think that was really genius tire strategy from them. Um, Haas is operating at a really top place right now, and this is also a bet because Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Aston Martin are struggling. Their upgrade looks like a downgrade. Seems kind of like the same thing happened to Racing Bulls, right? Ever since Spain, Sonoda, Ricardo, they've gone back with that upgrade. For whatever reason, the things that people are seeing in these simulators are not always correlated in the track. So I think Haas right now is a little bit more dependable.
So yeah, there's like a lot to look forward to in this race for sure. I think of the three, this is the one I've been forward to the most. I think we should see, quite a bit of effort, a good effort from McLaren. And yeah, I agree. Ferrari, I just don't feel like this is their race or this type of track or circuit is going to be for them. So I think we have some really solid bets here outside of Lando and Max crashing into each other last week. We were almost 4 for 4. But things happen, so that wasn't ideal. But really looking forward to this race, and thanks so much for joining me, Harrison. I'll talk to you soon. P1 picks going into Silverstone. We have Nico Hulkenberg plus 100 odds. That is for a top 10 finish. We also have Max Verstappen as the outright race winner. Those are minus 180 odds. And then finally, we have Oscar Piastri in that McLaren. We have him as a podium finisher, and that is plus 115 odds. Good luck, everyone.